Good morning, students. In the last session, we discussed my greatest Olympic prize, where Jesse Owens, after having practiced for 6 years, has reached in Berlin for 1936 Olympic Games. He explains his own experience in the Olympic game field. He wants to uh, disprove Hitler's Aryan supremacy theory by winning the gold medal. But when he get into the uh, ground, he finds someone else named Lutz Long, a German whom Hitler had brought, hitting more than he had done in his own record last year. So here Lutz Long is angry, and then in the first trial we find he loses the qualifying jumps by making a foul. And now we will see, and then he thinks, have I come here to lose and make myself a fool? Then he is bitterly disgusted and then moves from the ground. Now let us see what happens next. So here we have walking disgust a few yards from the pit. I kicked disgustedly at the dirt. Suddenly I felt a hand on my shoulder. So when he lost the trial, he walked from the field disgustedly. What's meaning? Disgustedly, irritated, angrily, frustrated, and he kicked the dirt. So he just kicked the dirt angrily and then was moving. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. So he felt someone touching him. I turned to look into the friendly blue eyes of the tall German broad jumper. So, who was that man who held on his shoulder? It was that same tall German broad jumper who had already uh, hit 26 feet even in his first practice trial jump. And then he saw that blue eyed tall German boy keeping his hand on the shoulder of Jesse Owens. He had easily qualified for the final on his first attempt. He offered me a firm handshake. So, with a friendly, firm handshake, Lutz Long greeted Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens, I am Lutz Long. So, that is how Lutz Long greeted Jesse Owens. I don't think we have met. So he said, we have never met earlier. He spoke English well, though with a German twist to it. So he was talking good English with a German accent. Glad to meet you, I said. Though Jesse Owen was irritated, frustrated, disgusted, he said, I am glad to meet you. I said then, trying to hide my nervousness, I added, how are you? Already Jesse Owens, after having lost his first trial, was irritated, so he was trying to hide his nervousness. And then he asked, how are you? I'm fine. The question is, how are you? So Lutz Long said, I am fine, because he has already qualified the trial. And then he said, I am fine. How the question is, how are you? So he said, I am interested to know, how do you feel now? What do you mean? I asked. So Jesse Owens asked him, what do you mean by the question is, how are you? Something must be eating you. What is that? Something must be eating you. It means troubling you, bothering you. He said, something must be bothering you. He said, proud the way foreigners are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. So, with a feeling of pride in himself, as the foreigner himself he is, he says a foreigner are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. So he spoke a bit of proud in his accent, saying that something must be eating you. You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. So, what was the sentence Lus Long says to Jesse Owens? You see, you should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. So Lus Long knows how qualified, how capable Jesse Owens is, and then he says him, boosts him up, encourages him, saying that you will be able to win the trials with your eyes closed. Believe me, I know it, I told him. So he said, I know that I am capable of doing it. Jesse Owens answered him. And it felt good to say that to someone. He said, I feel happy to say that to somebody now. Then he said, for the next few minutes we talked together. Here we means Jesse Owens and Lus Long. I didn't tell Long what was eating me, but he seemed to understand my anger and he took pains to reassure me. So he had asked a question, something may be eating you, but Jesse Owens did not answer him. But Jesse Owens had the feeling that Lus Long is understanding what his pains and anger is, and then he tries to reassure him, tries to assure him, make him feel confident that he will be able to win the trial match. Although he had been schooled in the Nazi youth movement, although he means here Lus Long, in the Nazi youth movement where Hitler had been training the youngsters, he didn't believe in the Aryan supremacy business any more than I did. So he feels that Lus Long also did not believe in the Aryan supremacy theory as Jesse Owens also did not believe it. Though Lus Long was trained under Nazi youth movement by Hitler, he did not believe in Hitler's Aryan supremacy theory. So we laughed over the fact that he really looked the part, though. So we laughed together. They both had a hearty laughter, saying that being inside was not a part of Nazi movement, but they both had a same look. An inch taller than I, he had a lean, muscular frame. So, this is the description of Lus Long, how Lus Long looked. He had a lean, muscular frame. He was very thin and then a tall man. Clear blue eyes. He had very clear blue eyes. Then, finally, lean, muscular frame, clear blue eyes, blonde hair and a strikingly handsome blonde hair and a strikingly handsome chiseled face. And finally, seeing that I had calmed down somewhat, he pointed to the takeoff board. So he was a lean, straight, muscular built body with a beautifully chiseled face. Then he says, when Lus Long understood that Jesse Owen was calmed down, he was no more angry and take off board, and then he said, look, why don't you draw a line a few inches in back of the broad board and aim at making your takeoff from there? So, what did Lus Long say to Jesse Owens? He said, why don't you draw a line? So, just Lus Long gives him the trick how to uh, escape from making fouls. He said, make an imaginary line in your mind a few inches back of the board, and I might making your takeoff from there. So you would be sure that you won't make unnecessarily foul. You'll be sure not to foul, and you certainly ought to jump far enough to qualify. So he said, it's sure that you will make a proper jump more than sufficient to make a qualifying jump. What does it matter if you are not first in the trials? Tomorrow is what counts. So he said, don't worry that even if you don't become first in the trial matches, tomorrow is the final, and what counts is tomorrow and not today. So we saw here in this paragraphs that uh, Jesse Owens, after having made the foul, he was irritated, angry, and then he kicked the dust and that was moving. Then Jesse Owens comes, touching his shoulder and then introducing himself and saying that he was happy to meet him. Then Luslo asks him what is that eating him up. Then, even though Jesse Owens did not answer him what was being troubling, then the the tall young boy, is able to understand the cause of his pain and trouble. And then they talk for some time. So Jesse Owens understood that uh, Luz Longto, having been trained in the Nazi youth movement, was not believing in the Aryan supremacy that was being propagated by the Hitler. And then when he sees that Jesse Owens was calmed down, he says that he could be he could be helped. And then he says, why don't you draw a line a few inches in back of the board and aim at making your takeoff from there. You'll be sure not to fall. So that was the encouraging or the clue to win in the trial match he gave. So we'll see the rest of the lesson in the next class. Till then, read through the lessons, try to understand it, and then you will be able to do your question answers. Till we come with the next class, stay safe, stay home. Thank you. God bless you.